Hey everyone, before we get started with today's review, I just wanted to remind you it is one day until the Drimp teaser trailer. I am so excited to finally get back on the ball again with my first film. This is going to be great. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be spectacular. And I really hope that you guys check it out when it releases tomorrow.
Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies, and today we are continuing our Frankenstein line of movies, and we are doing The Ghost of Frankenstein, which came out in 1942. And when you think of the title, it's really not what you're thinking it is. So, it's in black and white, of course, and Frankenstein this time is played by Lon Chaney Jr., who Marco says is very, very tall. With all his makeup and everything, he said he's about 7 feet tall, so he was a lot more formidable looking as far as height and bulk, and then the other guy, and
The other guy?
and the other
What?
movies.
You're not even going to say Boris Karloff?
Boris Karloff. And so, I guess that was a good thing. It was really kind of a...
Bernie's getting himself adjusted on my bed, by the way. He's settling down for the afternoon.
It was really just kind of a... I don't know what you want to call it, a nothing movie,
Well, I would describe it as a TV episode because...
Yeah, that might be better.
This happened a lot of the times back in the olden days. You know, they make these short movies, barely any plot, barely anything happened, and it would feel like a TV episode. Like a TV episode from nowadays.
It's like a little over an hour long, and that's pretty short.
So I would say it's really interesting because I think that there's a lot of switcheroos that should have been done with the series because I think that the way Lon Chaney Jr. plays the monster is much more in line with the character they created in Son of Frankenstein. And I think that the character that Karloff plays, I think that he would have been much more suited for this movie. And I also think the name Son of Frankenstein would have been better fit for this movie because the Ghost of Frankenstein would have been better fit for Son of Frankenstein. Because if you think last movie, they talked about the ghost of the monster killing people or something, and it would have been so much more fitting for that movie. And so it's really funny, there's a lot of switcheroos that they could have done that would have made these two movies a little bit better. So I would just say, I think it's weird because I've heard so many bad things about it that maybe I liked it a little bit more than what I would have thought of it if I had just watched it with no other opinions. But I still thought it was pretty bad. And in fact, the big thing for me is deciding, is it worse or better than Son of Frankenstein? Because I don't think I would ever watch either again.
No.
But if I had to, I'd probably watch Ghost of Frankenstein again because it wasn't boring. It was kind of like a drive-in movie. You know, like, I think this would have been a really fun movie to see at the drive-in. But there's a lot of issues. Safi?
Yeah,
What do you have to say?
I'm just thinking that...
You're thinking?
I think I like this better than the other one, too. The Son of Frankenstein.
It's really funny because whenever I say something on this channel now, Safi goes, you know what? I think I agree.
No, I think it is better, but I don't know why exactly.
Because it's more fun. It's actually shot better. It looks like a much better movie than Son of Frankenstein.
That might be the thing. I don't know. There's something about it makes it better.
It has a lot of good shots, surprisingly.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a couple of, we were talking about it before we started doing the video, and that is, there's a couple of kind of weird things with the plot.
Well, I have some notes.
And that was kind of what, even though it really isn't that great of a movie, it's still better than the last one, I think. I don't, it's kind of like Halloween. They just kept making sequel after sequel after sequel after sequel, and it's all messed up by now. There's just so many contradictions and changing the plot back and forth, and now it's almost unrecognizable.
Well, see, I would say Son of Frankenstein was like Halloween 4, except it was bad, and I do think Halloween 4 is good. This movie is like Halloween 6 to me, because of the way that the monster is. He's a lot more brutal. He's a lot scarier and physically intimidating. Same how Michael Myers was in Halloween 6.
Okay, well, the monster itself, like we said, because of the person playing the character, he's a lot more formidable looking.
Yeah.
And then, but he still continues, which was really weird. Since we've watched now all these different ones,
there's a lot of contradictions. Talk. Yeah, there's a lot of contradictions now.
So he's still. So I guess they kept that, but then what happens later on? Well, we'll let you know.
In fact, a lot of the issues in the movie could have been solved if the monster could just talk.
Well, I mean, he doesn't have to have an engaging conversation. He could just say basic words.
Yeah.
He did have a diseased brain, so that would affect his speaking, and that's what he had before when he was talking. He had some basic words, and
I would like to say, they made this movie right after the Wolfman, and Evelyn Ankers, who is the girl in the Wolfman, she is also the main girl in this movie.
Oh.
But they also, this is what's really strange, I think this was just to save money, they were playing music from the Wolfman throughout this movie.
Was that every time she entered the room?
No.
Okay. Or every time she showed up, the very first time, and then following, every time she showed up, they played this flowery, nice music. And I thought, that's really queer. I didn't care for it at all. Like everything is roses and daffodils, and
so they played a lot of the Wolfman's music, and I just don't understand why you would do that, because it almost feels like I don't know, it's a strange like mashup of like Wolfman and Frankenstein, where like you have the Wolfman playing the monster, you have Bela Lugosi, who was, he was in the original Wolfman. And then you have even the girl from the Wolfman who's playing the main girl. And I just think it's very strange to have the music from the Wolfman. It's too bad that they couldn't do an original score. Now, this is a big plot hole. Remember, at the end of the last movie, he gave the castle and everything to the townspeople.
Right.
Well, this movie starts off with the townspeople complaining to the mayor until he gives them the castle. He already gave it to them. So, like, why? What was up with that? I don't think Safi caught that.
No, I don't know. It's just that thing with the townspeople, it's almost like a cliche.
Yeah.
It's almost like every time they bring the townspeople into it, they're all a collective. I mean, it's not one character, it's a group of characters, and they're always out. They never understand what's going on. They're always having a fit.
They just immediately become a mob.
Yeah, they become a mob.
I guess you could say it shows you how the American Revolution was won, because it's just the townspeople back then, that if they got mad about something, they'd all get together and just kill everyone until they got their problem solved. And nowadays they're just like, oh, I don't know, I'll just vote for the lesser of two evils in 4 years and see how everything works out. You know? And, but it's funny because when they storm the castle, Igor is throwing bricks at the townspeople like Kevin in Home Alone 2. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. But I think that was real rock. I don't know.
And also, they put Lon Chaney Jr. in real cement for the sulfur. They just covered him in cement and let it dry, which sounds to me like a nightmare. And
yeah.
But for some reason, he has the black suit on now. He doesn't have the fleece on. I didn't understand that.
And it's a nice suit. I mean, he looks nice. I mean, it's all perfectly done and cleaned up. And
Safi, it's the suit from the first movie. That's what I'm saying.
I know that, but I mean, before he looked like... And then when he escaped from the castle, which they show... Because the townspeople... because it had been blown up. He's with Igor... He's all covered in this white stuff because he was knocked out of the wall. The explosion knocked him out of the wall. He had just been all encased in the cement or whatever, and which he really was, for real. And he was all dirty and covered in that white stuff. And then later on in the movie, he's like perfect. You never even would have thought he would have been encased in cement. He was perfectly, there wasn't a speck of dust or dirt or a wrinkle on him. He was perfect. So that was, I didn't even think about that, but that was like an obvious thing.
Then they have this big misunderstanding with Frankenstein and this little girl, and again, it all could have been solved if he could talk. But it's really funny because this is what reminded me of Halloween 5. Remember, at Halloween 5, they take Michael Myers to jail, and you see him sitting in the jail cell with this mask on. Well, in this movie, they take Frankenstein's monster to court, and he's sitting in a courtroom with chains on, and it's like, God, that's so queer.
And you know he's going to escape.
And he just easily breaks out. It looks like a sitcom the way that they shot that. Like, it didn't even look like a movie there. It looked like a sitcom from that time period.
What happened with this little girl? She's playing ball, and she's a real tiny little girl. And these boys are kind of a bully, and they kick it up, and it has a chain on it, like a real thin chain, or that's what it looked like, or a wire, and it gets caught up on a chimney. And so the Frankenstein comes over there, and the boys run away, and then she tells him, "Can you help me get my ball back?" And so he picks her up, and and that's what what he says is that if he could have talked, that would have helped. But those kids ran and told everybody about Frankenstein with the little girl, and they all got upset. But he was actually taking her up so she could get the ball on the chimney, because there were stairs up there, and they could reach over and she could get it.
What's really goofy is that later in the movie, Frankenstein actually gets her ball attached to his arm. And he's walking around with the ball attached to his arm, and it's like dribbling all over. It's just really, really silly, that whole part. But this is one of the things that I genuinely hated about the movie. Safi doesn't know, but they made this like Terminator Genesis, where they basically tried to rewrite the older movies and tried to piece together footage that they just shot with the old movies. And nobody liked it. Everyone thought it was awful, terrible. It was almost like disgraceful, like rewriting history. Well, they did the same thing here where they showed the original Frankenstein and they tried to put Lon Chaney Jr. into that movie, and they pieced together this footage. It was so bad. And it was so like, ugh. Like, like this is just, like, don't do that type of thing. Like, just reshoot the whole thing. Like, because they wanted to get Colin Clive back for this movie, but like he was dead. He's been dead for years. Like he's dead. So just do something else. Like it's the same thing with last one. Like work with what you're given instead of pretending like, oh, let's try to cheat around and just do like like we're doing a magic trick. It's like work with what you're given.
Yeah, it is a shame that he was dead. I mean, this is years later. He would have been a really old man, probably.
No, he wouldn't.
You think? Well, if he was
he was only 30 something or something, so he would have been like 40 or something.
Oh. I guess because he was so sick.
Yeah, he looked sick. He looked older and sick.
Yeah.
In real life.
Well, and he, comparatively, if you think about all the movies together, he really was the best Dr. Frankenstein.
Duh.
I think, and it is a shame. What happened was, the son, the Frankenstein's son, he got out the notes from his father about the monster, putting the monster together, and everything that he did. And so when he did that, they showed all these old scenes.
They also had him talk to the ghost of his father, which was also played by himself. And see, I'm okay with that because obviously, I'm okay with playing multiple characters. But like, the thing that I didn't like is the fact that he was completely miscast. The Dr. Frankenstein in this movie.
Yeah. He's
just some random old guy with a mustache. He didn't give off mad scientist vibes at all. And I just feel like, when you're making a Frankenstein movie, you gotta have a mad scientist character.
Well, just the problem is all of the Dr. Frankenstein characters, even though they're supposed to all be related, of course.
Because it runs in the family.
They don't bear any resemblance to the first one.
That's another thing.
And I mean, this guy's completely different. And that's why when I'm writing my notes, I kept having to thank Dr. Frankie's son. First I thought he was his grandson. Because I'm like, who was the guy in the previous movie?
This guy is supposed to be Sherlock's brother.
Yeah.
Which is really weird.
You never saw any other kid.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
And so that was another thing, and it was confusing to me.
You know what they could have done? Because I think Dwight Fry, he's in almost all the movies, like as a cameo. This could have been really interesting. They could have gotten Dwight Fry to play Dr. Frankenstein. Fritz.
Oh.
They could have had him play Dr. Frankenstein. That could have been really interesting because when he played Renfield in Dracula, he actually kind of looks similar to Colin Clive a little bit, just in terms of like the type of guy he is compared, like the slicked hair, he's skinny, I think that, that could have been interesting, but just some random guy with a mustache, I don't even know that guy, that they got to play Dr. Frankenstein, like, I've never seen him before.
I think I've seen him in what are those movies with Vincent Price? Dr. Phibes.
Prince.
I think he's in the Dr. Phibes movies.
Really?
Yeah, like he plays a detective or something.
I'm gonna look him up right now.
Okay. So, there was a lot of so this little girl, so he takes her down from the roof.
He was in Rope.
Oh. And he returns the little girl to the father at Bela Lugosi's urgings, because Bella, that's what I'm just going to call a guy. He's still controlling Frankenstein with this music. He has this horn, and it doesn't play one note; it can play a melody somehow. And it's kind of like he's like a snake charmer.
Yeah.
He plays this song, and Frankie the monster likes music. Remember the guy playing the violin in the little cottage? Well, he likes this music. It's kind of like that. It's very calming, and he he urged him to return the little girl to the father, and he did, so everything's fine. But then we go through all this stuff with the townspeople.
Oh, we don't need to go through all of it, but
but the little girl will show up again. And what kills me, this Frankenstein guy that...
Oh, you want to talk about that?
Frankenstein's son, he has a daughter. And this is, I guess, the person who was in the Wolfman Marco was talking about.
Yeah, Evelyn.
Her name is Elsa in the movie. And her boyfriend is, oh God, what's his name? Just a minute.
Well, let me say another thing. They have a later
Eric.
on. Safi's just like, she's obsessed with details, like
Okay,
like
go
a
ahead.
weird
Just
person.
go ahead.
I wrote down some of the lines for the movie. These were some of the funniest lines, and they came near the end.
Yeah.
One of them was, "Let's go to Frankenstein and choke the truth out of him."
He's not that way.
Let's
I mean,
choke
he's
the
really a
truth.
very professional older guy who he does seem like a doctor. And so when he says that, when that guy says that, he wants to choke the truth, it just kind of, what would you call it? Incongruous?
It's
or
so
just
silly.
bizarre?
It's so silly. Another one is, "I think the time has come for a showdown."
Really bizarre.
It's so funny because like they wrote lines like that back then, and nowadays, what's funny is that nowadays, it's like they write those kind of lines, but they take them so seriously. But back then, in this movie, you can tell that they're having fun with it. They're not taking it 100% seriously. But nowadays, they act like the dialogue is so good and it's so realistic. But it's just as terrible as it was in the 30s sometimes.
No, it's not good. Not all the time. Very rarely is it good.
Safi wouldn't know. She doesn't really do any new releases for this channel.
It's still, every time I do, it's never any good.
Well, maybe you should
Very
watch
rarely.
more. Maybe you should watch more
More what?
new releases.
Which are about what? Nothing looks any good.
I just did the new Alec Baldwin movie,
Oh, yeah.
the Western one, and it's funny because in that movie,
got in trouble with?
yeah, and in that movie, it's really bizarre because they treat Alec Baldwin like he's Michael Myers. So at one point, he jumps out a window like Michael Myers would do. At one point, he gets shot, and you think he's dead, but then he comes back for one last scare. Like Ghostface and Scream. They say like, and you think you kill him, you think he's dead, but then he has to come back for one last scare, and that's what Alec Baldwin does in the movie. And then they have to kill him 2 more times, and it's really hilarious. But it's actually a pretty decent movie. But they did something really bad. They sucked all the color out of it. So it's probably the ugliest movie I've ever seen.
Why did they do that? People like color.
Well, for this one, it's like they're trying to make it like a gritty Western. So they think, in order for it to be a gritty Western, we have to suck all the color out of it. And that goes along with the whole movie. But I won't say anything more, but
Well,
just...
that doesn't even make sense because I think back in the old days when they had Westerns, they had color. And people loved seeing the desert and the mountains.
Yeah, they had a lot of color in those old Westerns.
And so they really loved that. And they wanted to visit these places as a result. So that doesn't even make any sense.
But they're interesting to talk about, these new release movies,
Yeah, right.
And Alec Baldwin and his practicing, he's like...
Okay,
right, Safi?
We better get back to this movie to get it over with. So anyway, they decide that they think they need to, because the townspeople are having a fit, and they want to get rid of the prosecutor, who is Elsa's boyfriend. He thinks he should be destroyed, or they can't find him. They want him to gone, and so. But Frankenstein, I guess his father, seeing the ghost, he decides maybe he should change his brain.
Yeah, they want to switch brains with this guy named Dr. Kettering, Ohio.
Well, because what happened was Frankie killed him.
Yeah.
And so he thought, well, he's just recently dead, and this experiment worked before, he'll just take his brain and he'll put it into Frankenstein.
It's unfortunate that they didn't do that, because that could have been really interesting character-wise.
I know.
Could have been really interesting for a victim of Frankenstein's to be put inside his body, and then he has to live as the monster. Like, that would have been really, really interesting.
Yeah, that probably would have been more interesting what they came up with.
But instead they have Igor conspire with this other guy named Dr. Boomer, who's played by the guy who played the inspector in the last movie, and they conspire to put Igor's brain into the monster.
And Igor said, I'll follow you and do everything you want, and you could get lots of notoriety from it or something, you could be really famous.
And it's really bizarre, because they do that, and then you have the monster, but with Bela Lugosi's voice. And it is really, really silly and goofy and awful. But the twist is that he goes blind because Igor had a different blood type than the original monster. And I did like that. That was a good twist. But it was just so silly and stupid. It would have been so much cooler if they did just what they wanted to do.
And what Dr. Frankenstein, the son, he thought he was putting the brain of Dr. Kettering into Frankenstein. He really did. And so he knew that the blood types were the same. But the blood types, like he said, between Bella and him were not. And so Dr. Boehmer, being a doctor, that's like a basic thing. You can't do surgery or any other medical treatment where you have and treat the person with two different types of blood. And so even though this Frankenstein was kind of like a supernatural creature in a way, you don't know what's going to happen, but it's probably not going to be good. But he had no idea it was the other guy, because he changed he said that he did what he wanted, but he changed the brains and he gave him Bella's. But the thing is, I just wanted to say before this, right before he has the surgery, Frankie goes to the little girl's house for some reason and gets her. And like picks her up and takes her back, and she's got her ball. He picks up she doesn't have it with her in bed, but he picks it up.
And he takes it.
And he knocks over a burning oil lamp, and of course what happens? The whole place goes on fire.
Now, first off, the weird twist is that the monster wants them to put the little girl's brain inside him.
I forgot about that.
So you essentially have transgender wannabe Frankenstein, because it's like he wants to have the brain of a little girl. It doesn't make sense.
Get that at all.
That's so
I
weird.
guess because she's innocent and kind or something. I don't know.
He wants to be a little girl. That's really weird. That's not Frankenstein.
So that's why he took her and brought her to the... So I forgot about that, and that makes sense. That's why he brought her back to the castle.
And then they just keep her there and for two whole weeks. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, it doesn't make any sense because the daughter, they say, no, this wouldn't be a good idea. And so they managed to get the little girl away from him with no problem and gave her to Elsa. Well, Elsa has nothing to do with any of this stuff, and why she doesn't give the little girl back to the father is beyond my comprehension. So when they had the fire and it was over, there's no body of the little girl. So they're in the square again with the people. And he says, my daughter's been gone for 2 weeks.
Two whole weeks.
There's no evidence of her anywhere.
What the hell is up with that?
I have to get water. Excuse me.
That's kidnapping.
I'm like, why didn't she return her to the father? I just didn't get that. It didn't make any sense.
Now, see, the ending. The ending is basically like one giant cop-out because instead of figuring out a way to defeat the monster, they just decided, let's just have the monster wreck the laboratory and destroy everything, and then that kills him or something. It was so lame-o. It's not even funny. Like, this is a big pet peeve of mine when it comes to new and old movies, is you build up a monster or a villain a whole movie, and then you get to the ending and they're just defeated in 2 seconds. And it's like, wow, that we waited 2 hours just for that, just for the characters to like kick a villain into a sulfur pit. You know, like, that's stupid. It's lame, it's anticlimactic, and they do the same thing in this movie where the monster, he just destroys everything, and then that's the end of the movie. And the ending to this movie is so rushed.
It's very rushed.
It's
worse than all of them, I think.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's almost like the directors are competing for like who will have the most rushed ending. And so the ending is like Evelyn and her boyfriend just walk out into this like
Elsa
garden area or like this foresty nature area,
he
and then
rescues her.
There's a sunset, and then it says the end. Like, that's such a shitty fuck ending. But I will say this: we didn't really care about these characters. You know, we cared about the monster. So I could give two shits what happens to Evelyn Ankers and that other random guy. You know, like, I much more care about what happens to the monster. And, you know, we know what happens. You know, he faces off with the Wolfman in the next movie. So,
But the father dies, which I thought was a shame.
it's really
'Cause
convenient.
he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, he dies.
He
But
tries to save everybody. What he did was, remember that gas that he had quieted the monster down. Nothing could keep him quiet. He was raving at one point in the movie, and he has this gas in a room, and he turned it on and let it flood the castle or the house, and all these townspeople were there and invading the house, invading their space, because they go crazy. That's why I say it's like a cliche.
Safi, I think we should mention. I think it's hilarious and bizarre because the whole time that I was just talking, you were constantly coughing, and then as soon as you get to talk, you don't cough at all.
That's because I just drank a ton of water.
It's almost like you're doing that on purpose in order to disrupt my review flow.
No.
You know, you're trying to mess with my mojo.
No.
You know, Austin Powers and getting his mojo and everything.
No,
like,
God.
You mess around with my mojo, you mess around with me.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, so
I think it's time for a showdown.
So he dies, but he saved his daughter's life and her boyfriend and all the prosecutor, or all the town, I mean, and they get out of there. But the thing is, it just kills me. He dies, and
for no reason.
And they show the daughter and the prosecutor going off into the sunset.
Yeah, that was really good.
Which, I mean, my God, that was her father.
Yeah.
And, you know, she, you know, and it just kills me.
You know what they should have done at the end? They should have had her crying over his body, and she says, "Oh God, now you're gonna do that while I'm talking?"
Ugh, sorry, I
You
just
think
try
that's
to keep from coughing.
You think that's good review etiquette, Safi?
Sorry.
They should have had a moment where she's crying over her dad's body, and she's like, "I will avenge you and become the daughter of Frankenstein!" And then they put, "Next up, the daughter of Frankenstein." Dun dun dun. They could have done that.
But she wasn't like that. I mean,
I will become the daughter of Frankenstein.
That's why her keeping the little girl for 2 weeks made absolutely no sense with her character. It went absolutely totally against her character. I didn't get that at all. There was no reason for her to keep that little girl for 2 weeks and let the family thinks she was dead.
That's really
I mean,
weird.
I didn't get that at all. And we heard it. He said, I haven't seen my daughter. It's been 2 weeks. And there's no trace of my daughter's body in that fire. Where is she? And so 2 weeks. I don't get it. So anyway, but the whole thing, it like rushes like to complete speedway racing to the end. And then you see in the window of the house, you see Frankenstein. So you know he's going to be back. It's going to be like Michael Myers. You know, he'll be back for the
Frankenstein is the Michael Myers of the monsters.
Yeah,
I think.
is. He is.
But lastly, I would also say he's like Jason.
Oh, yeah, that too.
I would say overall, this movie was a silly mess, and it was like a drive-in spectacular movie, but it was really dumb, and it doesn't really have much of any rewatch value. I think that the one glowing highlight is Lon Chaney Jr. You know, he's really good. I think he's really underrated as an actor, and I think he actually did a really good job, and I was surprised because nobody ever talks about him as the monster in Frankenstein. Like, they never say, like, oh, he did a really good job, and I think he did. I think he brought something to the role that, you know, this is the character that they wanted him to be, whereas Karloff never really did that in the last movie, even though they changed his character. So I think Lon Chaney, you know, he has a leg up on Karloff, at least for these 2 movies.
Well, he did play the Wolfman, and I thought he was really good as the Wolfman.
And he also did the Mummy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think Karloff was better as a human, not as a monster. He played better parts being just a regular person and not a monster. So anyway, yeah, I agree. It's a shame, but you know, but like Marco said, it's kind of a fun movie, maybe in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's some mistakes or incongruities in it that make it hard to fathom. You know, like the keeping the little girl for 2 weeks and Dr. Boehmer not understanding about the blood type. I don't know if he didn't think of it. It just doesn't. I can't even say that because it makes no sense. It's just like a basic.
Apparently,
total basic.
They wrote a completely different script for this movie, and originally, it was going to be all about Igor and this other new scientist. And it was the monster from the other movies wasn't even going to be in this movie. He was going to be dead. And the movie was going to be about Igor bringing back to life like a gang of misfit people who were all killed. Like, you know, the movie Freaks. You know, the carnival movie, the sideshow movie about the freaks rebelling against the...
Is that Carnival of Souls?
No, Safi.
Oh, it's a different one. Okay.
That's a complete... So that was originally what the movie was going to be about, was Igor bringing back to life these people who were mistreated in society, and they were all killed, and
that would have been interesting.
They would all rebel against the town or something. But they said it was too dark, so... And I think it's a shame, because that would have been way more interesting. It's really strange, because they have all these potentially really good ideas, but they don't want to do them. They just want to do, like, the safest, mediocre thing that they could do. And so this movie, it's mediocre. And Safi, what would you rate this movie in terms of food?
Well, the other night, Marco made me a pork chop. We have this meal of pork chops with like a cranberry sauce, and we've had cheesy potatoes with it and peas in the past. For this one we had twice baked potatoes and fresh green beans. And anyway, he cooked my pork chop, and he made it so spicy I could only eat a bite, and that's why I gave it that. My one bite of overspiced pork chop. Because it's a promise of something that might be good, but It's not.
It wasn't that spicy.
It was good, but I couldn't eat it. So it didn't work for me. And the thing is, too, we still haven't, we said it a little bit, but the title of the movie is called The Ghost of Frankenstein.
And there's only a ghost for like a minute of the movie, so...
And, I mean, the title is The Ghost. And you only see it for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's it. You never see it again. That's why I was talking about it with Marco before we started this review. I said, is the ghost supposed to be that, quote, ghost he saw of his father, which it didn't even look like him because it really wasn't him? Or is this like that was his mind playing tricks because he just read that diary and he felt guilty or something, like he needed to help fulfill his father's memory or to keep it alive or something, I don't know. And the ghost is, I don't know, whatever, Igor putting his, I don't know, that doesn't even make any sense either, but I couldn't believe the whole movie's entitled Ghost, and you only see it for 2 seconds. So it made no sense to me, so. Okay, go ahead, what's yours?
I would rate the movie, there are these little prepackaged cheese and crackers that you can get. They also have peanut butter crackers. They have regular crackers with peanut butter.
And cream cheese crackers.
They have the cream cheese. They have orange crackers with peanut butter. And I would give this the cream cheese crackers with dill, because this movie just feels very much like a snack. A nice little snack that's not really much of anything. It's not a full entree. It's not a full meal. It's just kind of like a little snack that you can have. And
I think that's good.
I know it's good.
It is a good snack, but that's what it is. That's all it is, because it doesn't fill you up.
And it's a mediocre snack too. I mean, I've never really thought much of anything of those prepackaged crackers, but I am glad that I finally watched this movie, just because I did think that Lon Chaney Jr. was good.
Yeah. And it's funny because we saw the movie A Man with 1,000 Faces when they talk about the dad, Lon Chaney Sr., the one who was in Phantom of the Opera and the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and then they bring the son is in the movie, and I don't know, it's just kind of sad that it seems like he should have gotten more. I don't know, they just seem like, maybe it's just because it's too way back there, too far away, I don't know. Both should have been given more credit for the work that they did. Now they should be given more credit. Maybe they were given more credit back then, I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it. And I think they have their place in film history. For the work that they did and the characters they played. And
I think what's really cool too about these Universal monster movies is that the actors, they play multiple roles in different movies. And it's almost like a fun kind of thing where, like, oh look, where's that actor in this movie? Like Bela Lugosi, he's in Frankenstein, he's in Dracula, and he's in The Wolfman. I mean, that's really cool. Boris Karloff, he's in Frankenstein, he's in The Mummy. What else is he in?
There's probably a bunch of other stuff. They had so many movies.
I mean,
not all very popular.
He did the Black Cat, was really good. He did The Raven, which was pretty good. Yeah. I think that's cool. Claude Rains, he played the Phantom, and he played the Wolfman's dad. That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
So, I like that kind of thing. I think it's fun. Nowadays people are having a fit that Robert Downey Jr. is playing Doctor Doom after he played Iron Man.
Why?
And it's like, that's what acting is
I
that
know.
you play different characters. Like, and like, you think about, what would these people think about these Universal monster movies where, like, in this movie, Lon Chaney Jr. plays the monster, and in the next movie, he plays the Wolfman. Like, what would people have to say about that? Like, oh no, they can't do that. It's too confusing because I'm a stoopy-head. Like, is that what they would say? Like, it's just like, that's what acting is playing different characters, like...
Plus the actor, Robert Downey Jr. he's done a lot of different roles, and, maybe it's to make it more fun for him. Maybe he doesn't even need to work anymore. Maybe he's rich enough he doesn't need to work, but maybe he wanted to play Doctor Doom. Maybe he thought might be fun.
I will say it does feel like a desperate move. Like, oh look, Robert Downey Jr. comes back. But they wanted him back anyway. They wanted him back as, like, Iron Man, as, like, a different version of him. Oh. So, like, why would they complain that now he's playing a different character? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's stupid and dumb. And you can see, even back then, actors played different characters in the same universe. And nobody cared. Because back then, it's like the audience wouldn't be like this... Where nowadays it's like, oh, everyone's got to have a little opinion about something, and everyone's got to say like, oh, well, I don't think it's okay that he's playing two characters because, and it's like, it's not your decision. I mean, it's the movie business. That's what they do, is play different characters.
Yeah.
So I can't stand that kind of thing. I think it's really silly.
So anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and make a comment or two. Have you seen this movie? Have you seen the Frankenstein movies? Which one do you like the best? And whatever else you want to say, and that's it. So goodbye, everybody.
Bye. And just a quick reminder, I know that I'm reminding you guys so many times, you're probably brainwashed by now. Well, here's the thing. It's called marketing. And so once again, one last reminder for the day. Tomorrow will be the release of the Drimp teaser. It is going to be a long trailer. It's going to be something. And I can't wait for you guys to see it tomorrow. And I can't wait to stop doing these silly beginnings and reminders on each review video. So yeah, bye everybody.